Hey guys, MCU Collector here with a new figure review, and this one is very late, but I'm finally getting to it. This is the Mezco Toyz 112 Collective Marvel Thor Ragnarok's HELA. So this is the third Mezco 112 figure as part of the Thor Ragnarok movie, and one of, how many? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. This is the ninth MCU Mezco 112 figure. So I will show those all at the end because since there's not so many, I can actually have them all together. There are only a couple of more that are actually planned, and I believe it's only Captain Marvel and the upgraded suit from Spider-Man Far From Home that's going to have a deluxe version release. I don't know if there's going to be a regular one or not. So there's only 2 more future MCU figures that are going to be in the Mezco 112 line. Now, will there be more in the future? Who knows? They kind of tend to do the comic figures. There's only so many Marvel figures that do get released. DC definitely gets a lot more of the love. And now Gomez, of course, is taking off and skyrocketing. So here we have the few MCU, and hopefully there will be more because those are the only Mezco 112 collective figures that I actually do collect. But we'll get right to it. So here we have the package. So we see the Thor Ragnarok, and it says HELA up top. Down in the bottom corner, which you can't see, it's out of frame. You see Marvel 112 collective logo. So this package is the same exact package as all the other figures from the Thor Ragnarok, of course, Hulk and Thor. And Thor, this is actually my favorite Mezco 112 figure because that thing is just amazing. I love that thing. Even more than I love this Spider-Man, which this one's a great one too. This one's good too. But that Thor is actually my favorite Mezco figure. But anyway, here, look at the package. So we get some awesome shots, promo shots of the figure. We see that here, the accessories that she comes with. So the figure itself, 1 additional interchangeable hand, the classic Mezco stand, of course, 2 of the swords, and I forget what that sword's called, but there's 2 of them. And then 1, 2, 3, 4 additional pairs of interchangeable hands. So total 8 hands included. So pretty cool. Let's get right to it and open it up. And here I'm actually going to stay in camera so you can see how the package looks in case you are new to Mezco figures. So here it is with the window box style packaging, but it's not like you could get a real good look because there's extra plastic in there to help protect the figure. So let me open this up and then we'll get a better look at what's inside. So a quick look at the package. So we have the 2 swords here, the interchangeable hands. So there's 6 3 pairs, and then the pair that she has for the total 8, the figure itself, and then the 1 interchangeable head. And then the stand is behind there, and then the layer up underneath has the stand and the accessory bag. Alright, and here is the HELA figure out of the package, and this is actually a very, very good figure. Now, I think the problem with this is it's so unbelievably late. The Thor figure was late. Hulk figure was even more late, or actually Hulk may have come first, I actually don't remember. But this HELA figure is just way, way too late. Now I believe it was delayed a few months, like all Mezco figures are delayed, but it's just so long after this. I mean, we got 2 Marvel Legends releases before the Mezco figure came out, so that just hurts this figure. Another thing is, not a lot of the female figures people have cared for in the past from what I've seen. Like Catwoman wasn't such a very good one. The Harley Quinn was really bad. The Suicide Squad Harley Quinn. So a couple of things. So I think the female figures kind of get a lot of flack, and then nobody really kind of goes after them. But I think the biggest thing is that it's so late. And then people were hating on the Hulk. I saw generally good things about Thor, but not that a lot of people actually got the Thor. So, you know, all those things kind of play into it. But in hand, this figure is actually really good, and it is a prime example of the good things that Mezco can really do. In my opinion, I am not a Mezco expert, only having, 12 figures total, 11, whatever it was, total in my collection. So, you know, don't take my word for it, I guess, from the true Mezco collector kind of thing, but from an MCU standpoint, an MCU figure, I'm very pleased with it, and I think it is fantastic. So let's take a closer look at it, then we'll check out her articulation, we'll look at how she compares to the Marvel Legends version, and things like that. So here we go. Okay, get ready for the close-up. Look at that. So this head sculpt is awesome. I'm looking at it in the viewfinder though, and I'm thinking, well, that doesn't look that great, but in person it's so much better. I don't know what it is about the viewfinder. Side profile, this thing is Cate Blanchett. This is flawless. Mezco knocked it out of the park again with their head sculpts. Again, this is probably the best that I've seen out of anything. That is, look at that. That is amazing. This one, another fantastic job by Mezco. Look at the antlers. If you could look, it's so subtle. Actually, in those lines there, we get a little like bronze wash in there to kind of give it some depth and some detail added in there. The rest of it's all just black plastic, nothing going on. But right in the front, they add that little bronze paint. That looks great, but God, that looks good. That looks amazing. So she also came with an additional interchangeable head. This is the one where she kind of comes out of whatever, you know, prison she was in or whatever it was. So we have that here, and God, look how good that one looks too. She's got that little smirk on there with her hair down. That looks great. Now, I'm a little scared to try and take this off because it's like, where can you really safely grab onto this to pull it off? But I guess, you know, just a finger right behind, and then just pull off. Oh, it comes off very easily, so that's good. And then this one with the long hair, you just kind of fit it on there, but you actually have to move the hair. That actually gets a little bit tricky, a little trickier. And then, what am I doing wrong here? Okay, so there we go. So the hair fits on and it's kind of tight. So there's not a lot of give on the hair here. Obviously these thinner pieces, it's not so much an issue, and you want to make sure not to get it actually into her costume there, and it fits on there again, and that looks great as well. Really like the way that looks. So here looking at the suit, so this front part of her chest, this is actually a plastic piece on top of the cloth portion. The rest of it is cloth throughout until you get to her boots, and then of course her forearms. So the suit would be in the cloth, but the forearms up until here, that is a hard plastic. Now if Mezco ever decided to do away with the soft goods, even the plastic that they use is fantastic. Then, you know, if they were to do that, then I would expect the price point to be much lower, but that would look really great as well because they have full texture on it, so looks really good. You can see with the boots and the shoes. They have wedges, but she can actually stand. It's not really a problem getting her to stand. But here she is. You can see where the seams are on the back. But yeah, this figure is really, really good. Came out great. I think Mezco did a great job. Okay, let's zoom out and look at her articulation. Okay, so for Hela's articulation, now with this head on, she still can look down, which is good, but she's not gonna look up at all. There's just no way, because that hair is just not gonna give any kind of give to it. So we'll pop that one off, and we'll put the antlered head back on, or horns, or whatever it is. And it just kind of pops on. It just kind of gets on there, but you won't really hear it pop on, so I tried to force it a little bit, and not so much. Now with this head, she can look up, because ooh, some of those are actually kind of pokey. But she is able to look up with this head, and there's no gap in the neck or anything, so that's awesome. And you can get a lot of range of motion in there because it has the dumbbell type of ball joint on there, so you can get all kinds of range of motion, side to side, head pivot and tilt, so great things. The shoulder can go up that high, so great range of motion there. You're not gonna get a full rotation because of the cloth suit, but you can get great movement in that arm whichever way you want. The cloth is really gonna go with it, so you don't have to be worried there. She does have a single jointed elbow though. Now I know big point of contention with a lot of Mezco collectors is the lack of double jointed elbows on figures. This female figure, she has a single jointed elbow, so you're only gonna get just under 90 degrees, so not the greatest, but it's also not really terrible, and there are fragile, so you want to be careful with it. There's also a swivel at that elbow, so you can move it around that way. The hands are on a ball joint, so you can get a lot of range of motion in there, and to switch them out, you can just... This one was a little bit tricky getting on, so pop it off, and you want to be careful because that is a small peg, and then you could just put the hands right on there. Okay, so then movement, she has what feels like an ab crunch. So she gets a crazy range of motion going back that way. Forward, not so much. Okay, so you get diaphragm joint. So she can pivot to the side that way, pivot to the side that way. She's not really getting a lot of front motion, but then there is ab crunch there. So you can get her to go down that much, but then when, you know, going back was quite a bit. The legs, she can kick that far forward. She can go back somewhat, a little bit, Legs go out that far apart, range of motion in the legs there. You can kick out on the side even. She has a double jointed knee. It's there. There's no boot swivel or anything. She has a foot that hinges only slightly down, slightly up, but it's on a ball joint, so you can actually pivot it. No problem. You could turn it and things like that. So you can get good range of motion. You shouldn't have a problem getting her to stand. Like first try, she stood up. So that is pretty good right there. Now let's take a closer look at her accessories. Okay, so here are the accessories that she comes with in addition to with the additional interchangeable head. Now, some Mezcos are loaded with accessories. Some don't have a whole lot. Now, yes, I do wish she would have come with more, right? A broken Mjolnir would have been awesome. The Eternal Flame would have been really cool. But we get 2 of the swords, which is okay. It would have been nice if there was a little bit difference between the 2. They are the exact same. So, actually, are they the same? Yes, they are the exact same. They didn't change anything, but they are done quite nicely. You can see that they're done with the black. They have a little bit of a, looks like a silver wash kind of throughout, or silver dry brushing throughout. It's actually kind of pokey. But the sculpt of it's really nice. It's pretty thin. A little pliable, but I feel like it may snap, so you want to really be careful with it, but it does look really good. And I'll compare this to the Legends version in the comparison portion of this video. The interchangeable hands, so she has these ones that are kind of like open, like gripping hands, so she can probably like grip Thor's neck or something, or make it look like that's what she's doing. Out of the package, she has the fists, and those come out clean. She even has a little black, fingernail polish on her thumb. The rest of the hands actually have it there. She has this open hand, and I already have the other one on the figure there. And then she has these hands here, which would be the hands to hold the sword. Now, the tricky thing is how do you get this hand to hold this sword? So you really want to be careful, because you're going to have to kind of pry that thumb a little bit to be able to do it. Now, it kind of moves with it, and that's not so much an issue, but you really want to be careful to do it. And you know what? I'm not even going to do it on camera, because that's a little too delicate if you want to try and do it, because this hand kind of holds it. That actually holds it fairly decently. No, it's still pretty loose. You can kind of wedge it in between the fingers and the thumb, and it holds. So I don't know what this one would really hold. I mean, that's tough, because look how big that hand is, and look at that handle of the sword. So I don't know about that, but I'm gonna try off camera to see about getting that to fit. And again, we looked at that. I'll compare all the heads between the 2 Hela Marvel Legends figures again in the comparison portion of the video. Okay, that actually wasn't so bad. So the fingers of the hands are pliable enough that you could really separate them until she can grip those swords quite nicely. So that's actually quite nice. So it's actually pretty easy. You just kind of, open up the hand a little bit, and then you could fit the sword in there, and then she'll hold them nice and tight. So it's actually nice that you have her with this look where she's actually has both swords. The Legends version, only one of them came with swords, and I believe it only came with one. The other one didn't even come with the sword at all. So that was kind of unfortunate. But next, let's move on to the comparisons. Okay, so here she is next to Hulk and Thor. Now, I think the size difference is kind of thrown off in terms of scale. So I think actual actor, person-wise, Cate Blanchett, I'm sure is much shorter than Chris Hemsworth, but in the movie, I believe she's portrayed to be much taller. Now, the Legends figure, I think, is oversized and too tall. So I don't think any of them really scale too well together. But this is how the 3 look together, and I think they look pretty good. If anything, Hela probably should be a little bit bigger. But it doesn't look too bad. Now let's see her with the Legends counterpart. Okay, so here are the 3 Hela figures side by side, and you can see that the Legends versions are just huge compared to this Mezco version. So I think really she should be somewhere in between. So not quite this small, but not quite that big. So somewhere kind of in between, I think, is what ideally how she should look based on how it was in the movie. But you can see that there is a big difference between the 2. Now, this was the original release, and then because it wasn't completely film accurate, there were some colors. There's a little bit too much green. It wasn't as bright. Head sculpt really wasn't that good. The head, things around this head portion, head mask or whatever it is, it just wasn't quite right where they fixed it on the new one. The antlers are the same, so that all looks pretty good. But for the most part, you can kind of see that, you know, Hasbro kind of got it right. There's a couple of things in the design, like of the legs, you could see there's some differences in there. You know, here on the torso, there's not as much going on. So, you know, those kinds of differences. Big thing is just going to kind of be in the size. So this one, whereas this antler head, we're going to zoom in on that. So I can see Cate Blanchett a little bit in it, but you know what? It's really not the greatest. But this one, we just kind of get that straight face and not really going there. She's very pale in this, but I believe she was kind of pale in the movie, so the skin tone might be a little off when it comes to the Mezco figure. Maybe she should be a little bit more pale. So that's kind of how that looks. And then this one compared to this one, which isn't really accurate at all. So now let's swap the heads and see those comparisons. Okay, and here are the three unmasked or unhorned heads, whatever you want to call it, that she has now. There's also actually one additional one that came with the Marvel 80th anniversary line with the 2-pack with Scourge. So this one, and I'm not going to compare them because I guess these three would kind of be the best way to look, but then there's also this one. Now this one is actually goes for a very different look of Hela that's at some point that's kind of later in the movie, whereas this one's kind of earlier in the movie. This one's just kind of way off to begin with, but again, that was kind of the first initial release based on concept art. They didn't have anything final, but funny enough, these two heads are basically really going to be the exact same. Now this one's kind of looks like Cate Blanchett, but not the greatest, so we're actually just going to kind of get rid of this one because it's not fair to compare something that just doesn't really look good. But here we have the same hair, right, and everything, and then kind of the same face. She has more of a grin on this one, but it kind of represents that same moment in the movie where, you know, she gets Mjolnir and destroys it. So you can see this one, of course, looks better, but again, we're talking about an $80 figure versus a $20 figure, or in this case, I guess, since it's a $50 2-pack, this would be a $25 figure. But there's just no comparison. Mezco obviously wins in this case. Now the hair on the Mezco looks pretty good. I would say here on the Legends version, her hair is a little bit messier. It's a much softer plastic as well, but it's a little bit shinier than this one. Whereas I think the Legends version, I kind of like this hair more because it's a little bit messier than this one where it's a little bit more straight. But in terms of the actual head sculpt, by far Mezco wins it. But there they are. Now let's compare the accessories. Really, in terms of accessories, we're just going to compare these two swords. Now, the swords are essentially the exact same. You know, we get some sculpt in here, but it's a little bit more detailed on the Mezco version because it's a little bit bigger. But it's basically the same shape and everything. There's really not a whole lot going to it. Now, we have a deeper black here. That's because this one has a little bit of a silver or gray dry brush on it. And then this one's a little bit shinier, which, you know, how you kind of take it from the movie. I think in the movie they kind of looked a little bit shiny, but for, you know, depending on how you want to do, you can have your different options because she kind of made whatever she wanted out of whatever the sword was called. And you guys let me know down in the comments below what it was called. I don't remember. So it could be of different sizes. So you could kind of mix and match kind of however you want to do it. But Mezco wins here because it looks better with that dry brush on it. You get two instead of just the one that the Legends one came with. So Mezco wins there. Okay, so here's another look of all three Thor Ragnarok figures from Mezco. Okay, so here is all 9 Mezco 112 Collective MCU figures. So unless you want to argue and say that these 3 are not MCU, that's up for debate. It's up to you whether you believe it's part of MCU or if you don't. I choose to believe that these 3 are part of the MCU until they are retconned and Marvel Studios comes in and introduces us to new versions or same versions, and then we can kind of go from there. But anyway, here we have Hela, and I think she's going to mix in quite well with the little mini display that I have. They're just all the movie figures together on the bottom shelf of the Detolf. Nothing special at all, but looks great with the 2 other Thor Ragnarok figures. And then here we have all the movie figures. So the Black Panther, Spider-Man homemade suit, Spider-Man tech suit, Vigilante, Daredevil, regular Daredevil, and Punisher. So it's too bad we don't have more movie figures, but again, the only 2 that we have coming up are the Captain Marvel figure and the upgraded suit for Spider-Man Far From Home. So I'm happy to add this one to my collection. You guys let me know down in the comments below. What do you think of this figure? Are you picking it up? Have you picked it up? What do you think of it? I'm curious. Let me know. If you guys liked the video, please hit that thumbs up button. Subscribe if you haven't already done so. And as always, thank you for watching.